Now, you may look at this chart and think it's weird that the weekly median, the real weekly wage, which is far below $100,000, is just sitting here as a flat line at the bottom of the chart while home prices go up, as they do. I'm a millennial, so home ownership is completely excluded to me, as it is to many of you, I'm sure. And I've seen a lot of people, especially kind of the wonk-coded Democrat liberal types, saying that this chart is bad, and ironically propelling it, I think, to a level of engagement that probably it wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And I posit my theory here: lying on graphs is good. We should lie on graphs more. Suck it. I don't care. If this makes you mad, you're dumb. And if it makes you happy, you're actually very smart. You know that graph that's got like the dipshit on one side of the bell curve and the genius on the other side, and they both are saying the same shit? It's really like, if you're a dumbass and you look at this chart, you're like, oh yeah, that's so real. My weekly wage is so low and the price of a house is so high. And then in the middle, you have like wonks screaming and shitting and pissing themselves over the fact that this chart really isn't particularly useful from a scientific perspective. And on the right, where I reside, dear viewer, I'm saying the same shit as the first guy. This chart's great. I love it. Yeah, you know what? Weekly wages are pretty low and the price of housing is pretty high. And it reminds me a lot of the chart that I'm going to try, well, map that I'm going to try to pull up from Gavin Newsom about the most gerrymandered states, and there's a segment about that I put out before. I'll throw it up on the card thing around this time. But basically the enemy, Trump and conservatives and all those people, lie with impunity constantly, and they do so in a direction that is only meant to make people feel racism, xenophobia, hate for their neighbor, hate for America, love for pedophiles. These are the goals of their misinformation. And I think that if we are going to occasionally make a chart that gets a lot of engagement that says that Republicans are dumb fucks and that they're making the country more expensive and that they're making the country work, I don't care. I will never criticize it. I'm never going to come out here and say, no, you need to be a little more accurate with that graph. We're dealing with shameless liars in general, and the number of people who are going to be persuaded by this is going to be small, but it's going to be non-zero. And you know what? Fuck it. Who cares? Like, I'm so tired of all the hand-wringing on my side, all the nitpicking from liberals and leftists about facts and figures, where, like, obviously, I'm not saying that we should just shamelessly lie about the facts in general, or that we should just be out here like saying the sky is orange when it is blue, right? That's not what I'm saying. But if we're presenting information to make a point about our policies, which, as people on the left, our policies are more based in reality to the point where basically science, reality, any definition of decency that any religion or atheistic moral code has ever come up with invariably fits in the left, because the right has literally moved over in such a way that they are pro-pedophilia, pro-racism, they're trying to create a secret police. They already have. They're putting out the 14 words on their DHS Reddit millennial cringe account. Like, these people shouldn't be taken seriously, and we shouldn't treat any messaging being used against them as seriously as we would treat their bullshit. There needs to be a double standard, is what I'm saying. We need to give special treatment to people on the left who are releasing slightly misleading information. And you know what? Let's look at it again. Is it misleading? Well, no, not really. In a lot of ways, no. It's kind of bullshit because this is just flat, and that's the funny part, is that, like, it's distorted in such a way where, like, it doesn't matter whether this is going up or down by 20 or 30 or 50% at any given moment. And of course, you don't use a real weekly wage to buy a house, but it's funny. Like, it's fucking funny. And yeah, the line for houses is in fact going up. And like, even though there's more there's more sellers right now than buyers in the housing market for the first time in a while. At least that was true a few weeks ago. It doesn't matter. The prices still stay extremely high. There's a ton of people who, like, they're not wealthy, but they have money from inheritance, or their parents are trying to buy them a place, and they're waiting in the wings for interest rates to go down. So you think that we're going to get relief when interest rates go down? No. They're going to go down, and then the line's going to go flying back up again as all that demand floods in. And this is something that I've been saying for a while, is that we do have an affordability crisis, but people on my side, there are good things and bad things. Our enemies are demons, LOL. Yeah, thank you. Yes, exactly. If you're being slightly misleading to accomplish a good thing, I'm not going to say shit. I didn't see shit. I'm not telling anyone, okay? If JD Vance is coming out and saying that actually legal Haitian immigrants are eating people's pets and kidnapping them and murdering them, you know, I think I'm going to overlook the fact that Bernie Sanders is trying to say houses aren't affordable when factually that is true, okay? I just can't get worked up about it. It's actually kind of comical to me that there are people who have... It's funny. There are people on Twitter specifically whose whole shtick is looking at the right and finding things that they're saying that are kind of true and making the Steelman argument for it, and then going over to the left, like this Bernie Sanders thing, and writing a hand-wringing, excoriating post that's like 10 years, like they're writing a book out here about a troll chart that Bernie Sanders... This is like the funniest shit Bernie's actually done in a while, and it's one of the things that he's done. Like, he's kind of lost his sizzle over the past few months, I would say. And that's like fair enough. He is like 10 trillion years old. He is like older than God. So I don't care. But this is actually funny. This is actually something that if he did this shit until the end of his career, I would not give a fuck. And there's liberals who would lose their goddamn minds over this, and they'd say, well, I just care about the truth. And it's like, not really. Like, you don't care about the truth that housing is unaffordable and a bunch of Americans are like not voting for Democrats even though shit is unaffordable. They should be. And a lot of it is because I think on the left liberal spectrum, there's people who like... There's two types of idiots on the left liberal spectrum who I have a problem with. The first is leftists who are NIMBY. Some of them, like there are many YIMBY leftists, especially here in Seattle. I'm blessed. But there's a lot of leftists who are NIMBYs who basically are saying that, like, no, if you build a shitload of private housing, there's no way that anyone's rent will go down. That's impossible. Even though, like, you know, it obviously capital is full of evil motherfuckers. It's just not true. Like, if you look at any country that builds a fuckload of private developments, yeah, like houses become more affordable because like those people want to sell those houses. And if you build more houses than people want to get, or if you build more apartments than people want to live in, yeah, like obviously. And then people will be like, well, no, they make such a big margin on the luxury apartments that if 1 out of 1,000 apartments is occupied, they'll still make their money back. And that's just demonstrably not true. Then you have the fucking liberals who in a lot of ways are even more obnoxious and stupid because they take the pitch that you ought to tell the American people that they're actually super rich, everything they have is actually super great, and every time they complain about the cost of living crisis, they're wrong, and I see you going on those vacations, I see that you're buying those DoorDashes, and yeah, everyone's a bunch of treat-lorite little shits, I get that, I totally agree, I've talked about that a billion times, but you can't say it to their face, never to their face, like... what are you doing? You need to go with it. You need, and I think that like there's a way to kind of strike the balance here. You don't need to go on one side or the other either. Think about it this way. If you are a poor American in one of the most numerous, not the most well-paid, but the most numerous professions, which is mostly customer service, retail, and healthcare, actually. And I don't mean healthcare as in everyone's a doctor. I mean healthcare as in people who wipe other people's asses and people who are like doing home care and stuff. These are massive parts of the economy, and the people doing them don't make very much money. Those people represent a big enough part of the population that if they are left behind, it'll be catastrophic for the country. And we see them getting left behind in real time. In California, they're represented in a massive homeless population. In red states, you basically have like debt peons all over the place, people who make such a low amount of money and they're just using payday loans to get by, and they're racking up massive credit card debt, and they're living like they're not going to retire. Then above them, you have an even bigger group in the middle and in the upper middle. And I think a lot of leftists don't want to believe that this is a bigger group than the very bottom, but it is. You know, the top three quintiles, we'll say, right? Or even the two at the top middle, maybe not the top quintile. These groups are fine. They are spending more money. Their wages are going up in relation to inflation. This is true, unfortunately, for a lot of people. They literally can't believe that that's true, but it is. They're making more money than they were before. They're going on more vacations. The stock price of airlines is going up. Even though there's less international tourists coming in, people are using more of our airlines. The most traveled day ever in US history was in June recently. So people are spending money on shit. And you have to imagine a scenario where those middle people get their bag because interest rates go down and they're sitting on liquid savings, or semi-liquid savings. You know, they can use their 401k to buy a house. Their parents may be passing away. They're like an older millennial. They're in their 40s or something. And they're about to get some inheritance from a boomer or something. Those people can create a massive boom as soon as the interest rates go down. They're going to blast demand into the housing market. And then they're going to leave everyone else behind. And then any issue that comes from cost of living, even if people are doing okay, if things are that unequal, it's going to go to shit. Like, you know what I mean? There's going to be societal unrest that just can't be cured in any easy way. We're right now, even it's not going to happen because Trump is president, but right now we're pretty much in the place where we would be able to maybe head this off with massive public works project. Basically, we should do projects that are meant to uplift those bottom two quintiles and make sure that they have a life where like they're saving for retirement, where they're not living like they're going to die tomorrow. You know what I mean? And I think that I know a lot of people like that, and I'm sure you do too. If you're just a regular American who's not kind of cloistered dealing with a small group of people, you know, I just don't get what the solution is for service workers in a society where you can't afford shit. You can't expect people to commute 2 hours to work at McDonald's. Yeah, and that's the problem. Those service workers can be left behind. And like, the solution is simple. Wealth redistribution. Like, this country's wealth inequality is utterly insane and unsustainable. It's bad enough that these people have such a hard time finding jobs, that their jobs are not rewarding, that their jobs are poorly paid, they're non-union, and they're abusive, and customers are abusive too. Like, and you know, having worked in customer service, the very rich and the very poor are the people who treat you the shittiest when you're doing customer service. Okay, so it's like you get stabbed in the front and in the back. But the solution is that there needs to be more of a social safety net. You need to be guaranteed, no matter who you are, a certain guarantee that you're going to be able to retire, that you're going to perhaps be able to visit family or do like a domestic vacation once or twice a year. You should be able to like have free time. You should not be abused by your boss. You should have strong worker protections, and you should have a wage that doesn't make you feel like a fucking pauper in the richest country in the world. And we don't have any of those things. And we won't until we completely reimagine the way we even view these jobs, because so many Americans have this batshit crazy idea that if you're not a white collar worker or like a guy who's like welding, or we fetishize the trades here. If you're not a tradesman and you're not a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, any of these like white collar jobs, you're not sitting in an office, then you are not deserving of a basic bedrock of living. And a lot of it isn't even that the standard of living for the lowest people, the lowest quintiles, is so bad, because if you compare it to other countries, they are better off than a lot of places. The issue is more that they can see the rest of society and see how relatively bad they have it. And what's more, we make poor people jump through a lot of hoops in order to live, and that makes it so that for much greater effort than other places with stronger social safety nets, you eke out the same living. So you're spending more of your time doing bullshit, filling out forms, finding out what programs you're eligible for, going to food banks, trying to find out if there's a way to get your electricity subsidized or something. These programs exist, but they are designed to be as painful and miserable as possible. And I think that instead of just looking at people and telling them somehow to their face that oh hey Siagro, monkey, I didn't notice that you jumped in, so what's up? If you're just saying to people's face that it's not that bad, maybe the message that you're meaning to deliver is for the middle class white collar treatlerite who's mad that after they buy their vacation, after they do DoorDash 4 times a week, after they take their girlfriend out, after they pay the rent, pay the bills, after they send some money home to mom, after they plan next year's vacation, then they have no money left. You know, that kind of person exists, and they're a dumb fuck, and they need to fucking read a couple of the guides on Fidelity while they're looking through their 401k to figure out why they don't have money. Maybe that's the person you're directing your message at if you're like a Will Stancil or something. But the people below them are also going to hear it. And even if their wage has gone up over inflation, they were in such a backwards place in the first place that it's not going to make a difference. And like I said, if there's one thing America likes making you do as a poor person, it's hustling really hard for a very small reward. And I think that effort and reward should be correlated. I maybe that's like a hot leftist take or whatever, but I feel like in America you can work your ass off and not get much back in return.